This is NEWSPASTY, where I insult people who are complete bastards. Yes, a shower of bastards. And that is what we've got this time. We've got the IDF spokesman, Peter Lerner, talking to Sky News. And what are Sky News doing? What they always do with the IDF, subserviently licking their boots and trying to find excuses. Why? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, yeah, it's okay. What you murdered people, but we know it's probably not your fault. We'll do everything to say it's not your fault on the news. This is dire propaganda from one of the worst. This presenter on Sky News is possibly the worst of the worst. And I know people say, well, there's people like Piers Morgan and Julia Hartley-Brewer, they're pretty bad. And what about Douglas Murray? He's pretty much a Zionist arsehole. So, what about all of those? But this guy is like a public school boy who just bends over and looks nervous every time that he dares question the authority of the IDF. Some of the worst criminal behavior is happening. Genocide. We know what's happening. Death by fire from above. The dictionary definition of a Holocaust, my friends. Dictionary definition of a Holocaust. 1. Death on a mass scale by fire from above. Yes, that is what's happening. IDF have been murdering people for ages. And now the mainstream media are saying, oh, well, we can't get away with just saying that we've got to try and push back now. So what should we do? Push back? This doesn't look like pushing back. Listen to some of this. It's awful.
It's been described as a grave mistake, but does what happened on Monday point to something else? A lack of professional behaviour by some in the IDF. I mean, as we've said, 2 people have been dismissed and 3 people disciplined as a result of what happened.
Thanks, Kamali. It's great to be here. Indeed, the reality of this incident is a true tragedy, something that should have never happened, something that could have and should have been prevented.
So you're saying this guy here, over here, this Peter Lerner character, he's saying this is a true tragedy. Not the 13,000 plus children that have been murdered. Not the starvation, systematic starvation of Palestinian people. While at the same time, when we mention, you go back 2 weeks ago, you mention Palestinian people are starving. What do you get on the news? Oh, look at all of these people serving food amongst the rubble. They've got loads of food. They're not starving at all. What do you see now? Big bellies, people dying on hospital beds, children. 13,000 children dead because of the IDF. And this is a terrible tragedy because this isn't Palestinians. Because we're racist. That's what this is. The support is racist. We're targeting one race. Do you know what that race is? Canaanites that mixed with Arabic people thousands of years ago. So 50 to 80% from Canaanite genetics with a little bit of Arabic thrown in. What are the Jewish people who live in the same area? They're 50 to 60% Canaanites, but with Judaism thrown in. None of them are officially 100% Jewish because there's no such thing. They came mixed with the masses and they came out the other side as the same people, went away for 1,500, 2,000 years where they went from place to place and got pushed out because of why? Well, people are starting to say it's because of this exact behavior. What we're seeing murder and they don't care. Why? Because they are racist. The Zionists are racist. The IDF are racist. The Sky News and all the other news networks that defend them are racist. They're awful people. Awful. Yet these are the people that the majority of people listen to. You're listening to this nonsense. You've got to listen to this public school boy now, and he's gonna try and tell you that oh yes, we should hold you to account, but we're sorry we're holding you to account. We don't want to hold you to account. Terrible stuff.
The IDF, through an independent inquiry, independent of the chain of command, conducted an in-depth expose of all of the operational intelligence, all of the operational visual aids, all of the capabilities and the communications between the different forces, and came to a very, very clear conclusion that there was incorrect identification, decision making errors, and non-compliance with the standard operating procedures.
So they looked at all their own evidence and decided, oh yes, we did wrong in this count. So look, we're being held to account. Okay, but what about over 30,000 people you've murdered who aren't white? What about that? What about for the 30,000 people you murdered who aren't white? You understand? Who aren't Palestinians? Eh? Can you imagine? Are you going to apologize for any of that? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're killing children. Oh my God, though, we killed 4 Western aid workers. This is a tragedy beyond recognition. We don't even know what we do, but we'll spit on the graves of the Gazans. It's terrible.
So this is the why they are being disciplined, as you rightly pointed out. No, I don't think that actually represents a broader problem, as you implied, but rather how we deal with problems as they arise, under the understanding that there is a war zone. We are in a state of war.
Yeah, and we'll come on to some of that in a moment, Peter, but just some specific...
The mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. It's fine. They're in a state of war, so that happens. While you're in a state of war, genociding a load of children so that and destroying all of their futures, making sure that these people are starving to death with flies over their face, big bellies, unable to feed their families, unable to survive, children being targeted. This is just war. This is what war looks like. Don't worry. We're not trying to target aid workers. We're just trying to target children.
Specifics on this. Is it usual for the IDF to be supervising convoys at night by drone?
Of course, when we are facing an enemy like Hamas that is doing everything to try and commandeer humanitarian goods, then there is surveillance. This was one case where we were conducting this video surveillance. And in the course of the convoy, as it moved on, the communications to the forces on the ground did not receive the fact that the WCK vehicles would be there. This is the epicenter of the failure. The communication that did not go down to who needed to receive that information. So
it's awful. What they're doing is is it normal that there's you have surveillance drones going on when there's a convoy? What he's saying there is, okay, we know that you had a convoy, so how do we normalize what you did? Because what you're doing is using drones to surveil all of the activity in Gaza. So everything going on, there's drones everywhere. I've talked to people who have talked to people on the ground who have sources who say all they hear is buzzing all of the time from the drones. Because Israel, what this is, they're practicing futuristic warfare methods. They're practicing other things, and they're watching everybody. We all know Israel are surveilling everybody, and I mean absolutely everybody. Not only Gazans, I'm talking about you. The reason why the IDF and Unit 8200 exists is to be able to get in between all of these different technological systems so that they can be the links in between. Now, it's people like Ghislaine Maxwell's sisters and brothers who create the contracts and create the software that help to link between these people. It's people like Cyber Reason and others who are out there doing nefarious stuff and working with exactly these people. This is not, they're not just surveilling convoys, but they've made that point for a reason, to excuse them. Are you surveilling Oh, we've got to do it. All right, then. It doesn't matter that you bombed our people.
When they saw armed people boarding one of the trucks and then saw 4 vehicles that from the visual surveillance appeared to be very similar to the Toyota pickups that came into Israel on the 7th of October, they concluded mistakenly that these are Hamas terrorists. And that basically, when they didn't know that the WCK vehicles were supposed to be there, they went into a mode where they were chasing after an enemy that wasn't.
There was zero arms. There was zero weapons. They make this stuff up. They've not presented any evidence. They've said, oh, we've looked through all the evidence and we've shown the evidence, but they haven't. They're lying. They systematically lie so they can continue murdering children. And you're paying for it. You, me, we're paying our taxes. Those taxes are going to kill children in Ukraine and children in Gaza. Well done, people. And what are you doing about it? I tell you, you're watching me talking about how we can't do anything about it because the structure has been made that way. This is where we're all helpless unless we all continue to put pressure. And a lot of it means turning off Sky News and stopping listening to the way that they manipulate you and they give manufacture consent for the murder of children. Murder of children with our own money. They're manufacturing that consent.
Actually, the enemy.
And Peter, so let's just be clear what you're saying, because the WCK said that they informed the IDF that it was happening, and in your report here it says that at 2 junctures, WCK attempted to be contacted on the ground and in their Europe headquarters, but that wasn't happening. But now you're telling me that it wasn't clear for some of the operators whether or not it was a WCK even on the road at that point.
When you pointed out the 5 officers from the rank of major all the way up to major general that have been disciplined from removal from their positions, relief of duty, or all the way up to or through reprimanding.
Boo-hoo! All the way up to reprimanding. Oh, they got removed from their positions. Oh, the shame. And now they've gone, it's all the way up to being reprimanded. Oh, you naughty little child murderers. It wasn't a children, boss. I know, but I gotta say you're a naughty little murderer, so you know. Yeah, but one children, boss. Oh yeah, true enough. It wasn't. It was just 4 guys who were helping children. Just some guys who were helping people, a few guys. Not even sure if it was. How many did they kill? How many did they kill? I bet you they count the aid workers, but they're not going to count the other people who were murdered anywhere nearby in the strike. This is the thing. We just blind to Palestinians. Palestinians don't exist anymore. What's the point of worrying about bombing Palestinians? Listen, if you're going to explode a child's house, murdering the child inside, let's not worry or even think about that. But if you would murder a white man, a white man who's helping us, it is a tragedy. It is something that needs to get some form of solution. What we need is some form of punishment. What we're going to get? Well, the IDF are going to reprimand their own people. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, in that case, then, you know, we all go home and eat popcorn because they've been reprimanded. Well done. What's the reprimand? Slap on the wrist? Oh, they're not allowed to be in the IDF publicly anymore. So we'll stick them probably behind a computer and they'll join Unit 8200.
It's precisely because there is a need for coordination. The coordination didn't work properly on the Israeli side. WCK they conducted everything that they were supposed to do. There is no complaint on our behalf to them. They did what they were supposed to do. The communication didn't go to the field, and those that are responsible for that have been reprimanded or relieved of their duties.
Final point on that, you said the communication wasn't there. Peter, can you...
Wait a minute. They've been reprimanded or relieved of their duties. So where are we now? Where are we now? Because just now it was they've been relieved of their duties all the way up to reprimanding. That was carefully worded. It's not they've been relieved of their duty and reprimanded. They've either been relieved of their duty or they've been reprimanded. That's the language. That's the language. This is a language of murderers. This is murderer language. Peter Lerner speaks Zionist murdering language. That's what he speaks. This is the issue. We've got a new language forming, new speak, and guess what? It's always the same, isn't it? It's an establishment, it's an authoritarian, genocidal, tyrannical force who introduces new language and coerces language to mean that they can get away with murdering men, women, and of course, children, innocent children.
Be clear as to what actually happened. Was the call made? Was the message sent? Was it ignored, or did it not go?
No, the communication.
Why would you believe
we knew
him?
that it was planned, but the vehicles of the WCK that were targeted, the forces on the ground didn't know that they were supposed to come, and when they did 1+1, and they saw the gunman on the truck, and they saw these four trucks, these four pickup trucks, like Toyota pickups that came in on 7th October.
Again, he says when they saw pickup trucks that came along on the 7th of October, what? So anybody in a pickup truck is now a legitimate target for the IDF. That's what he's saying. He's saying, oh, there's arms. Was there arms? Have you got any evidence? No. Do you remember Julian Assange? Do you remember him? Do you remember that footage that WikiLeaks released? Remember of the drone looking over the top and they're just shooting the reporters? You can't even tell. You can't even tell whether they're carrying guns or whatnot. No, because they're reporters. They haven't got any guns, but they can say afterwards, "Oh yeah, it looked like they were carrying guns." Now, Newspeak, they are guilty for driving the same vehicles that some people used on October the 7th. That's all you need to be guilty now, to ride in a pickup truck. You are a target. You're riding in a pickup truck. Okay, what does that mean? We're going to murder you. And it's okay, because you're in a pickup truck. Pickup truck sales is going to go well, I'm sure. Ah.
It appeared to them, they came to a very conclusion that this must be Hamas, and therefore they appeared to be targets, and that's what they thought that they were striking. They failed repeatedly in the course of the pursuit after what they thought was Hamas, because the checks and balances that are in place were not implemented, and that's why we say that
there are no checks and balances in place. He just said it himself. They were allowed to fire on them because they thought they were Hamas, because they were in pickup trucks. Oh, they had weapons. Have you got any evidence of that? No, we showed all the evidence, and there's evidence. Okay, can we see the evidence? No, we showed it all. Yeah, okay, there was no evidence, so. Yeah, but we showed it all, but there's no evidence, so how can you show it all? Honestly, there's no evidence. There's no evidence of what they're saying. The only reason why he's claiming really that they killed them was because they were in a pickup truck, and people in October the 7th used pickup trucks. Just saying, hey, they were in trousers too. That's it. That's all you need to do. You just need to say, oh, look, there's a similarity there. It's a similarity. Yes, but it's a vehicle. There's loads of different... Yeah, but pickup trucks are notoriously terroristic.
problems in the standard operating procedures or in the decision-making process. And that's why a major and a colonel have been relieved of their duties, and a brigadier general, another full colonel, and also a major general have been reprimanded.
So, Peter, you're telling us it's the trucks that may have caused the confusion, because in the report it...
Wow. So Peter, you're telling us it's the trucks. It's the trucks that may have caused the confusion, isn't it, Peter? It's trucks that caused confusion. It's not the genocide that caused the confusion. It's not the fact you're firing on anything that moves down there that causing... No. It's the trucks, isn't it? It's the trucks' fault. Pickup trucks! Damn you, pickup trucks! Pickup trucks!
It suggests that there are
unbelievable
two men seen at different times at 10:28 and 10:46, potentially with guns, and it's at that point, the later man who was identified as having a gun at 10:46, that those on command on the ground think that it may...
Unbelievable! He's now the news presenter here is no longer reporting or holding his feet to a fire at all. He wasn't at the start either. He's given him... So you're saying it's a pickup truck, and you're saying, and we know that there was some guys who looked like they may have been carrying guns, and you're saying that's why, is it? You're saying, oh, that's the reason, is it? Yeah, give you the excuse. No, ask him for a reason. These guys are on the same side. They're two guys who are on the same side. There's no one holding anybody to account here. This is Sky News. Sky News have been on board since day one. Brutally on board with manufacturing consent for the murder of children in Palestine. Sky News should be shut down. It should be shut down. This is obviously, clearly, they're working with a foreign intelligence agency. Okay, they're working alongside a foreign intelligence agency, and they're murdering children. They should be shut down. Sky News should be down. It should be not allowed. And I think this is something in the future we will hold people to account in a different way. Sky News needs to be shut down.
Involved. So was it the go on?
No, that is precisely the red flag that indicate that brought their attention to this.
You've given us the excuse.
At that stage, they did receive, or they raised the red flag to the command, and the command instructed them not to strike, because there is a humanitarian operation. They didn't distinguish that they were actually the WCK vehicles, and then they continued to pursue the vehicles as if they were Hamas vehicles, and this is the tragedy that came out of this. Event.
There's no evidence they told them not to strike. There's only evidence that they told them to strike. This is lies. Lies of murder. Murder. They love to murder. They love to murder. All of this is excuses. So Peter, it was definitely the pickup truck's fault, wasn't it, Peter? Was it the pickup trucks? Was it the Toyotas? Was it Toyota? Oh, aren't they Japanese or something? Oh, we had trust them. Oh, they remember that World War II. Yes. Concentration camps and stuff. So it's pickup trucks again. Those bloody pickup trucks. Always the ones. Always causing trouble. You remember Somalia? The people had pickup trucks. You remember Black Hawk Down? There's a guy in a pickup truck, isn't it? He gets hit by an airstrike. He deserved it because, wow, why? He was in a pickup truck, wasn't he? Yes. What about those ones in Afghanistan and Iraq who were in pickup trucks? They were in pickup trucks too, yes. Americans never use pickup trucks, do they? Never.
I mean, Peter, it's a very confusing picture that you're painting to us, but let's just keep moving forward if we can. And I know that there was a briefing last night to some reporters, but pointedly, the moment when the armed individual enters one of the vehicles that the IDF say they saw has not been shown to reporters. Why?
So it doesn't exist. You can't say the video that shows this hasn't been shown to reporters. You have to say there's no evidence. There's no, until you were to show it to report. So there's no evidence that armed men got into pickup trucks that they fired upon. There's zero evidence. If they're going to show the evidence, what? They're going to show that someone had something over their shoulder, that someone was armed men who what are you going to do? Well, they were in pickup trucks on October the 7th. October the 7th. Oh, October the 7th. Oh, October the 7th. Murder the babies, October the 7th. If it's October the 7th, you should be able to commit genocide because October the 7th happened, remember? Pickup trucks. Yes, pickup trucks on October the 7th. Kill everybody. Pickup trucks, October the 7th.
Why is that?
I think I think we did actually reveal to the journalists yesterday extensive footage, several minutes of this incident, showing both the gunshot and what appears to be potentially a gunman going in the vehicles. This is the part of the
what appears to be potentially a gunman going into the vehicle. Appears to be potentially a gunman going in. What? When you say appears to be, can we see the footage? Oh, we showed them some footage of something around the time. Yes, and it appears to show to us some things, but you mustn't have seen it when the press were watching it in this closed briefing where the information won't get released. You won't be allowed to see it. So it's only the people who agree with the IDF and in the IDF press briefing. That's now just mainstream media like Sky News, who should be shut down. Sky News shut down.
Process that we're conducting now, maintaining the investigation. I can say that after the independent investigation came to these conclusions, their findings will be transferred to the Military Advocate General, which will now look into the potential of a criminal investigation that could happen as well.
Independent investigation by the IDF. Independent. This is like the British, the Independent Police Complaints Commission. Remember them? And then later on they become something else, but they're still not independent. They're run by police, for the police, and they take. Oh yes, that you weren't. It wasn't your fault. Hey, this reprimanding that we've done, yeah, or the relieving from duty could lead to criminal prosecutions. That's hypothetically possible. These are all ways they say to stop us from holding people to account.
Yeah, Peter, it's our understanding from our journalists who are reporting this that footage has not been shown. The person thought to have a...
Look how polite he is. Oh, it's our understanding from our journalist who told us. I'm sorry to say this, but oh please, look at the body language. He's like, oh, you know, I'm sorry. It hasn't been shown to us. It hasn't been shown to us at all. What you're saying is I don't want to argue with you because you're our lovers. We're in bed with you. We're in bed with you. I don't want to wake up and not find you in bed.
Weapon getting into a vehicle leading to the miscalculation has not been shown to the journalists working on this for us.
Right. I think it was. I wasn't in the briefing yesterday, but from what I understand, the video that was shown was the video that has indeed got gunmen identified in and around and approaching the vehicle.
In and around their mouth and anus. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about this is balls. This is balls. That's what this is. This is bollocks of the highest order. This is, oh, well, I think it was, but it wasn't. Our journalists have reported that it definitely wasn't. And I'm being told that they weren't definitely sure. Yeah, but I wasn't there, but I think it was. That's where we are. Yeah, he's not going to argue. Why argue with him? They're on the same side. Why argue? As long as they continue to kill little dark-skinned babies, none of it matters. That's all they want to do. That's all they're manufacturing consent for. That's all Sky News is used for, to manipulate you. If you're watching Sky News, if you're watching this and you believe any of it, honestly, you need to go get your head checked because the next thing will happen, some pickups will turn up at your house and take you away.
It's a very, very complex situation.
Absolutely, Peter, and I respect that. I respect you answering the question, but do you not see that this points exactly to the problem that is at...
Unbelievable. I respect that. I understand. I respect that, Peter. I understand. I'm holding your feet to the fire. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I respect that. I respect you answering the question. He's lied to you. You just said what you've told me isn't true. And he says, and then you say, but I respect you answering the question. But he hasn't answered the question. So how can you possibly respect that? Well, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. None of this is true.
Hands here that when people's lives are in your hands, when there are two drones overhead and there is this breakdown in communication, you're not even certain as to what information has been released. It's very difficult for people to draw the conclusion that this was a grave mistake and not something else.
What else could it be other than a very grave mistake, Kamali? I mean, we do not...
Wow. What else could it be? Well, you can't possibly be suggesting that it's a war crime. What else could it be? It can't be a war crime because we don't commit war crimes because we're Israel. And Israel can't do anything wrong. We don't do anything wrong. We murder children and we get away with it. So how can it possibly be a war crime? Listen, if we're able to burn babies to death in their houses, how is it that we're not able to do this? It can't possibly be anything else. It must be a mistake because we don't actually do anything but right things all the time. What are you going to do about it? Oh, yeah, sorry, Peter.
Target intentionally, and the forces on the ground didn't target
Look at him trying to say,
that these were Hamas because they identified gunmen in and around those vehicles on top of one of the trucks.
No, they didn't. They just lie about it now. Did you see it? You look like you want to interrupt him, but I'll leave him speak. I'll leave him speak. I'll leave him say what he needs to say. I'll leave him say it. Because he needs to say it. Why would he lie to me? Why would this be a war crime? It's Israel.
Even actually firing. And so, it is an absolute tragedy. It's something that needed to be and should have been prevented, as our Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, said yesterday morning. And I think what we're trying to do now is, first of all, fine-tune the system so that the humanitarian effort can continue. The government instructed the defense establishment yesterday to prepare more access through Erez crossing in the north of Gaza Strip and also increase the capacity of Kerem Shalom in order for the goods that are going into Gaza, and there is about 260 trucks yesterday that went into Gaza, and
increase the capacity. What? Increase the capacity for what? For murder. They want increase the capacity for murder. What does that mean? We're going to watch you more carefully. So what does that mean? We're more likely to claim that we've seen a gun and gunfire, and then we're going to kill them. Why? Well, because of the type of car they were traveling in. Obviously, if you're traveling in a pickup truck, you're a bunch of bastards, just like us.
only about 80 of them were distributed within the Gaza Strip. So we need to improve that capability, and we need to do it by improving the coordination, rebuilding the trust. Of course, there is a severe challenge here. We do want WCK to come back. We've engaged with them over the last 2 days extensively. And I think what is important is to get the humanitarian aid to the people on one hand, while we continue to pursue our military goals on the other, of getting rid of Hamas and bringing home our hostages.
You realize Hamas are like this sort of boogeyman so that they can murder children. And the evidence is clear that 2/3 of the people who have been murdered are women and children, not Hamas. This is a guy who is is involved in genocide, talking to a man who's manufacturing consent to genocide. Sky News should be shut down for being in league with war crimes and for excusing and manufacturing consent for war crimes over the past 6 months especially. There's no way that this has gone way beyond what they're doing. That's still not journalism. They're not holding anybody to account. This isn't journalism at all. This is genocide. This is Sky News being part of the genocide. Unbelievable. I honestly, look at that face.
And Peter, I'm pleased to hear you say you have reached out to WCK, because of course, as you know, that it's necessary and very needed that those aid groups are in there working. Talk to us about those in the room when these decisions are made. My understanding is in this instance, there was not a military lawyer there who was to sign off on this strike, the 3 strikes that destroyed those 3 vehicles. Going forward, will a military lawyer be present in these kind of instances?
So there were...
Of course there's not going to be a military lawyer present on every strike. That's insane. They're never going to do that. Of course they're not going to do that. The type of question is that? Who's ever asked that question? Have you ever heard that question be asked? Oh, you murdered a load of people. So in the future, will you have a lawyer constantly there so you don't do it? Where's the holding people to account? No, it's, oh, well, you're allowed to do on this. Let's not make the same mistake again, shall we? Because this is obviously a mistake. Obviously, I really thank you for not answering my question. I'm answering my question by not answering I really thank you. Thank you, Peter. Please remember me. I love you.
In the process of this strike, there were several failures, and indeed the legal accompanying, but also the battle damage assessment. If you conducted one strike, you need to assess what the damage is. Are the enemy? Is there more intelligence that has come in? Do you need to continue to do a second strike? And I think that
so you need to stop excusing strike after strike. He's just saying, oh, if we do a strike, maybe we need to do a second strike. Maybe we need. Yeah, but you got it wrong on the first time. You shouldn't be even doing all of these strikes. You were committing genocide. No, none of that. I'm not going to talk about that. Why would we talk about any of that? Why would we? Come on, that's silly. That's silly. Israel can't possibly murder because, well, Jews are better than everybody else. That's what everybody is led to face. Now, it's the Zionist entity within the state of Israel that's making us believe that all Jews believe this is fine. But if you look at the polling in Israel, I think you're going to be really disappointed. I think that things like this doesn't even make a tiny little dent. There is an extreme problem with extraordinary racism in Israel. And it's always been the way within, to be perfectly honest, within Jewish communities for a long time, that there's a massive element who believe that because they're God's people, they don't have to treat people the same way, that they can murder women and children. And this is being allowed, not only allowed, facilitated, the consent manufactured for. We've got to stop this being repeat, cycle in history over and over again. It's a cycle. And it leads to wars, it leads to murder, it leads to all sorts of things. Now, we've got Israel being one of the most powerful nations in the region, and they're murdering children, and no one's stopping it. They're just manufacturing consent for it. We all know it's happening. All of us.
Accumulation of the problems is not only around an issue of lawyers, but it's also the rules and regulations are in place for a specific reason. We need to stand by those rules and regulations. Some of them are legal, but I would say that most of our rules and regulations are actually operational, and they give us all of the tools to conduct our warfare against Hamas.
And so all of the rules and regulations are operational, so that's specific to Israel itself. So they are creating their own rules. That's what he's saying. But most of the rules are our own rules. And that's what we use to destroy Hamas. Oh, yes. Okay. And 13,000 children, which is a war crime. Yeah. Let's not ask him that question. None of the questions that should be being asked are being asked, because this is literally one of the weakest news reporter. He's just he's a puppet. A puppet talking to an IDF spokesman puppet. Puppets talking to each other, and the majority of people will get their news from this source, which should be shut down because it's involved in war crimes.
Warfare allow you, Peter, to destroy any vehicle that you think may contain Hamas. It says in the report that there was no certainty that Hamas were in the vehicle. You thought that was the case. But if that's the case, will you destroy any vehicle that you think may contain Hamas?
No, I think that's exactly when there was no certainty. That should have been the foot on the brake that stopped the movement. And that is precisely why we are highlighting it in the results of the findings of.
Yet he's already excused the foot not being on the brake because it was a pickup truck. So he's gone excusing the fact, oh, look, it's this way. There's a vehicle. It happened because of this vehicle, and it happened because of that. Oh, yes, okay. Should we not, isn't that bad? No, not really. It's a pickup truck. Pickup trucks. Notoriously dangerous people ride pickup trucks.
The investigation. There were many red flags that should have stopped the operation, the strikes as they happen.
Yeah, like genocide.
No, the IDF conducts its strikes against the enemy where they're hiding, and we know that they've weaponized the civilian arena. They don't walk around in uniform. They are in civilian clothes.
Unbelievable.
Of schools.
Right. Have you ever seen how Israelis are, where they're completely over the top about supporting the IDF? You've got 8 trucks that are trying to get through to starving people, and you've got loads of children from the kibbutz who are all blocking the trucks, yeah? And they're stopping them to getting the aid to people. And this is the Israeli society mobilized for wars. All the TikToks of girls dancing. Yeah, look, we're Israeli, IDF, murdering children. Yeah, it doesn't matter because we're Jewish and we're God's people. We're God's people, so we can do whatever we like. We can murder anybody we like because we're God's people. That's what it's saying constantly, over and over. You can hear it. You can hear the sound. But you've been trained, really trained, not to be able to respond. You've been trained not only in language and the changing of the language. You've not only been trained through years of getting used to it and it being normalized and entering into a state of hypernormalization like this. You've not only been trained by the MSN constantly putting things in your head all of the time, but you've been trained by fear of discussing the past of Judaism and how the people who are leading the Jewish people at the moment are all Zionists and have the most pernicious ideology that means they're God's people and everybody else can go get lost.
Hospitals, as we've seen extensively, and this is the challenge of the enemy that we're facing, an enemy that has no regard or little regard to the values that you and I hold dearly.
The values of murdering children. That's what he's saying. Oh, there's no regard for the values that we hold. What values? The ones where we don't check when we murder children. Those values. That's insane. Oh, they don't hold our values. What's our values? Manipulating people's minds to allow us to kill babies. Oh, those are my favorite values. When I wanted to create a society, I was like, right, number one, manufacture consent for murdering children. Hold that as a really important thing in our society so we can get rid of these people who live in the land that we want to take. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's tyranny and dystopia. Oh,
So what's
I got
going
it
to
wrong.
change going forward in the way the IDF operates?
Nothing.
So what I know is that we're engaging with the international humanitarian organizations on one hand to improve the coordination on the ground.
Cool.
That absolutely needs to be clear. One of the things that came out of the investigation was that the visual surveillance didn't identify the WCK stickers because of the night conditions, and that they had no thermal or other materials on their stickers that would highlight that there is something out of the ordinary.
Okay, it wasn't only pickup trucks, but they didn't have thermal stickers. Who has thermals? What's a thermal sticker? Have you ever heard of this? So now, if you want to live in the world and not be murdered, then they got to give you a thermal sticker that you're going to put on something so they can identify who you are, and then they can decide whether or not to target you. They can decide whether or not that it's the right thing to do. Thermal stickers
on
for
the other
everyone.
hand, the internal processes need to be much better and much tighter, and that indeed we have a humanitarian operations room in the Southern Command in order to make sure that the flow of the information reaches the people at the end of the chain of command, so that forces that have a misunderstanding that this is a Hamas vehicle are actually brought to their attention. No, this is a vehicle of an international humanitarian organization.
Okay, many lessons to be learned. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, do appreciate you making the time to speak to us today. Thanks for being with us, Peter.
Thank you. Good evening.
We do appreciate at Sky News you coming and speaking to us. Sorry, lying to us and to the people, because we are on your side. Because they're in bed with them. They are war criminals. Sky News are war criminals. They are complicit, fully complicit with manufacturing consent for the murder of children. It's not only, you've got to get rid of the corruption in governments. You've got to get rid of the mainstream narrative, feeding excuses into people's heads. Feeding excuses. That's what they're doing. They're trying to excuse the fact that they're murdering children, and they're doing a good job of it. It's disgusting. I'm sorry NEWSPASTY wasn't very happy or fun. No, because we're watching a genocide, unfortunately. Thanks for joining me, though. Thanks for joining me.
Great reset for the post-corona era.